All right, well, let's call to order this Wednesday, November the 25th, Board of Franklin County Commissioners meeting.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Present.
Commissioner Howard?
Present.
Chair Waymeyer?
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson?
Present.
Commissioner Dunn?
Present.
All right, well, if you'd all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to remain on the line for the invocation led by Scott Dickinson. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
to the republic,
and to the republic which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for your love for us, and we thank you that in all that we face, that you're there with us. You're always present, and Lord, we're grateful for that. I pray for our county this morning, and that each of our county commissioners, every county employee, and Derek, as they help us continue to wade through the COVID. And Lord, we pray for our citizens as they go out and about, help them to be wise in how they conduct themselves in the public. And Lord, we just pray for everyone around, that they stay healthy and they stay doing the things we need to do. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. We pray that it will give thanks, and maybe in a different way than we have in years past, but help us to take time to be thankful for the places that we live, having food on the table, a home around us. Father, be with the dinner tomorrow as people will come to the auditorium and other places, a couple other places that are doing dinners tomorrow. Help them to find some nice warm food and some fellowship, a little bit of fellowship as well. Continue to protect our commission as they make their decisions. Lord, watch over them, give them wisdom and direction. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Holt.
Yes.
Pastor Redding is on the phone now. Would you like to ask him to say a few words as well, since he joined the call?
You bet. Drew, are you on?
Yeah. Sorry, I was having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning.
No worries. We got an invocation in, but you're welcome to speak if you'd like.
Well, I just, I was just planning on speaking to just the how much we have to be thankful for this year. I think there's been a lot of focus on a lot of negative things, but just remembering how much we really do have to be thankful for is important. Yeah. So I heard the prayer, and I'll echo it.
All right. Well, appreciate you, and thanks for being here this morning as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. And correspondence and organizational business. Do we have anything to report, Derek?
Yeah, no, sir.
All right. Janet, do we have any public comment today?
No, sir.
All right. As far as consent agenda, it would include considering approving our minutes from November 18th. We have longevity payroll, the amount of $88,449.56, and tax change orders in the amount of a negative $2,206.74. Their motion to approve the consent agenda.
It's Don, I'll approve.
This is Roy, second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. And down to items of business. The sole item of business today would be to review landfill expansion options. David Lee, our Public Works Director, is on the line.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you know, staff has been working with SCS engineers for basically since the summer to look at options for our existing landfill, our C&D, construction and demolition landfill. If you recall, this summer we found out that we had less than 10 years of active life left in our C&D landfill, and that's based on the volume of material that comes into the landfill and our compaction rates, which gives us an airspace calculation, and our current permit has a top elevation on that airspace. So we are, 10 years is really not that long, especially when you consider the increases in volumes of material that have been brought to the landfill the last several years. So we commissioned this expansion feasibility evaluation study through SCS, and they've been working on that. And today, I'd like to visit with you about the 4 options that they have presented to us so far. And my goal here today is to present these options and visit with you about maybe a preferred option so that we can direct SCS to finish their study. Once they are done with that, I'm going to ask them to present their findings to you in a future commission meeting. So you will hear formally from them with regard to our landfill. So the 4 options, and I've provided this information to you in your packet. So there are copies of the summary of expansion options along with the memo that I prepared and some maps of the various footprints. So they were able to create a situation for us where we should be able to remain at our current location. We will expand the footprint and we will go up in elevation. So option 1 will have a total acreage of the C&D landfill at 29 acres, which this would be an increase of 10 acres in land, but we will increase the elevation, the peak elevation from 968, which is what we are currently permitted, up to 1042, which represents an increase of 74 feet in height from our where we're at with our current permit to where we think we can go with a future permit. And this peak elevation and increase in height is the same for all 4 options. So with option 1, we would have a net airspace in capacity of 1.4 million cubic yards of material. If you compare that with the total that we have available to us under our current permit, which is right at 217,000 cubic yards. So it's a significant increase in volume that we'll be able to handle through option 1. And if we use 11,000 tons per year of accepted material as our baseline and a waste density of 750 pounds per cubic yard, which is what the information earlier this summer told us we were getting as density, we would have about 47 years of life to the landfill. If we reach our goal of being able to compact that material down to a density of 1,000 pounds per cubic yard, we'll bump that lifespan out to 63 years. Option 2 has a total acreage of 33 acres, which is an increase of 14, same peak, same elevation increase. The net airspace increases to 1,580,000 cubic yards with a lifespan of 53 to 71 years respectively. Option 3, which is our preferred option, and we'll talk about that here shortly, but that has 31 acres, which is an increase of 12 acres over the current footprint, and a net airspace increase to 1,680,000, and life expectancy of 57 to 76 years. Option 4 increases it by 16 acres, and the airspace to 1,860,000 cubic yards and 63 to 84 years. Things important to note on all of these options, we would need to construct a secondary stormwater detention pond so that we could capture all of the water runoff from our site in these ponds before it goes anywhere else. We would also, because this C&D landfill, part of it used to be, years ago, was part of a MSW landfill, which is the municipal solid waste. So at one time, prior to having the transfer station, all of the trash that was collected in the county was buried on site. And so what we are proposing to do is go on top of that, which KDHE does permit. And so we'll have to do a little site investigation so that we know where we can run the perimeter channels and that sort of thing to capture that runoff. All of the options would have an approximately 400-foot slope. So we would definitely need to do some terracing or benching to be able to minimize any erosion issues that we would have with that sort of construction. Other things to consider with option 2 and 4, you're getting awfully close to our transfer station boundaries where they are operating. It would necessitate the relocation of at least one monitoring well, and our brush and burn pile just to the northwest of the transfer station would need to be moved. That gets problematic in reducing the available area that we have for those sorts of things. Also, with options 2 and 4, it would create some stormwater drainage issues. Currently, we have a drainage area that runs along the kind of the east side of the current C&D landfill, kind of separates the C&D from the transfer station area. That would be a major consideration where we would have to reroute that in order to maintain those drainage flows. With option 1, the only consideration really is making sure that we get the stormwater ponds put in the correct areas and graded correctly. Option 3 is our preferred option, and the reason is from a constructability standpoint. We're increasing the size of the additional footprint only 2 acres from option 1 to option 3, but because of the constructability, not having to grade around sharp corners that you see on option 1, it provides, it's easier to construct and it gives us additional volume. The only site considerations there that we need to concern ourselves with at this point, well, not even at this point, but eventually we would need to relocate the compost and the metal piles. We've already discussed approximately where we could fit the metal pile in, where it would still be functional and accessible. The compost pile, that can be moved literally anywhere we need it to on the site. So as you know, if we were to go with option 3, as that is being built up, we could simply move that up the hill, so to speak, as we needed to. So there's not a huge consideration there. The monitoring wells, I'm not sure how big a deal that is either. These wells were installed by KDHE years ago when they were studying C&D landfills all over the state. They were trying to determine, you know, what kind of groundwater issues they might be having through C&D landfills, if there was leachate and those sorts of things that were happening underground. As far as we know, that study has concluded, and current staff is not aware of KDHE coming out to inspect those monitoring wells for years. But we, you know, want to respect their location if possible. So option 3 is our preferred option, and if you look through the larger footprints there, you'll see that how that potentially impacts the rest of the site. So our burn pile would be able to remain in place. Our scale house and transfer station area would remain as they are today. The shooting range that the sheriff department utilizes, they're not going to be negatively impacted by any of the 4 options. So all of those things are positive. And so we wanted to really answer any questions that you may have about these options and get your blessing basically to have SES move forward with finishing the study. And then we will also have them present their final report at a later date. Something else to consider, I would like to start the permitting process sometime after the first of the year. The permitting process to get a new permit is likely a 2-year process. And I think it's best to move forward for us right now while we still have time on our side. And the associated costs will only get more expensive as time goes on. To give you an idea of the financial health of the Solid Waste Special Caps Fund, currently we stand at a healthy $1,282,397. And we'll be over 1.3 million by the end of the year. And it's also important to note that these funds can only be used for landfill-related expenses. Another stat that I think is important in this discussion is the volume of material. We've already set another record for volume this year. Just through October, we've already brought in 12,700 tons of material. And so that's an increase over the 11,000 tons that we received last year, which is a record in and of itself. So 2 years in a row now, we've increased our intake into the landfill by 2,000 tons. So I don't know if these trends will continue, but certainly we need to be prepared for that. And I think we're taking the appropriate steps by having this expansion done, and then next year, if we start the process, that will give us ample opportunity to make sure that we have properly planned for the future, and then we can absorb the costs associated with a study and eventually construction without really going any further past than the Special Caps Fund. So with that, I would open it up for any questions or comments that you may have.
This is Don. David?
Yes, sir.
I kind of been through, you set these things out and they always put that 40 or 50 years. And I've actually been through 3 of these in 20 years.
Right.
So, and so you helped me with my decision a little, because I was almost considering number 1 until you kind of highlighted the advantages of number 3. And the only reason option 1 is because, like I said, it just seems like you never get to that number that we're talking about. I mean, and you got to be around 20 years to physically see that happen.
Yes, sir.
But I know most commissioners probably only deal with it one time. But I pretty well agree with your deal on number 3. And one other question, doesn't have anything to do with our decision today, probably. The increase in numbers, is that increasing numbers include what's going through the transfer station?
No, sir. Those are completely different numbers.
Okay, so the numbers you're talking about is not what goes through the transfer station?
That is correct. This is just material that is brought to the C&D landfill site that we are compacting and burying on site.
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Commissioner Dunn. One thing, David, retention pond, is it going to serve more than just that one area?
The site will be graded to take advantage of these detention ponds. It's not, we don't yet know if we're going to need one more or if we're going to need two more. That will be further on in the once we get into the permitting process, whenever they actually prepare the construction plans and that sort of thing. But we are allowing space for up to two of them. And again, we will grade the area to be able to push that water to these areas so that we're not letting the stormwater that flows off of this just go where it wants. We'll direct it to the appropriate detention area.
Okay, thanks.
David, once we have a plan submitted, approved, we kind of have a topographic goal to work towards.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if we're working on the west half of the site, disturbing ground, burying trash, creating runoff, do we have to go ahead and grade and build the east half? Or is it, kind of a plan for the future? If we're not, disturbing ground over there, do we need to be building ponds?
We still have life left in our current permit. And so I would anticipate construction beginning sometime in the, call it 7 to 12 years down the road, when we will need to start really thinking about the perimeter grading and that sort of thing. So I don't really anticipate construction beginning anytime soon, but and what I'm thinking is that it's best to have a solid plan in place so that when the day comes, we're ready to go and we're not having to go back through the process with KDHE. So we're able to start construction when it's most appropriate.
So my thought there is, the construction is not one huge build out, it's kind of a plan that we work towards. And
yes, sir. Exactly.
We can use, free time to work on that.
Yes.
With that in mind, this being a 70-some year potential life we're adding to the facility, a lot of these buildings will be 100 years old by then and well past the end of their life. So is it necessary to really include them in a future consideration, considering they'll be long gone by then? Thinking that now's the cheapest time ever it's never going to be cheaper than today to make a plan, like you said, and get permitting. It's never going to be easier, never going to be cheaper.
There are many unknowns in how long our existing structures, the scale house and the transfer station, last. Obviously, I think it's safe to say that they're not going to be around here when we get to the end of the C&D landfill life. But I do believe that there is room where we currently have these facilities to rebuild when the appropriate time is. And, quite frankly, there may be different regulations in the future that dictate what we do and when we do it. So, working with those unknowns is, we're projecting a long ways into the future, and it's tough to know exactly what's going to happen. But I do think that we will have a solid plan, and having this permitted will allow the next generation of folks to be able to, build on this plan.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. One thing we haven't talked about is that we are raising how high we're going to go, and I guess we're feeling that we don't have a choice in this matter if we're going to stay there. But there had to have been a reason originally that they didn't want to do that. I just wanted to maybe address that a little bit.
My understanding is that the commission at the time the previous permit was enacted was hesitant to go much higher than the 968 that we're currently permitted at. You know, there are alternatives. We could look at moving off-site to another location, but that opens the door to it will be more costly. It will be difficult to, you know, get another site permitted. Not, you know, going through KDHE is a pretty standard process, but the finding a piece of land that you have willing adjoining landowners to be next to a landfill is problematic. But certainly that is something that we could look at. I feel like what we're proposing here is similar to other facilities that I see around Kansas and other areas when I travel. They are, you know, fairly high mounds that are just grass covered that get, you know, mowed, but it, you know, they're not especially pretty to look at.
Dude, this is Derek.
This is Commissioner Howard.
Go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead. I was just going to say part of that maybe as far as the heights and everything, maybe had to do with the compactor we purchased that they didn't have in the past. So that was all I had.
Derek?
This is Commissioner Dunn. I don't know if Don recalls that being a problem. I don't recall that being a problem since I've been on the commission, the height situation. Maybe Don might know something.
Yeah, I think it was kind of brought up, but I don't think it was totally shot down either. But I do know, am I right or wrong? I know there's no push to do it, that's for sure. It was just, the land was up for sale and we bought it. But I do believe that the property across the road to the south is known for a landfill facility, even though I know we don't want to go there at this time. Am I right or wrong?
That is my understanding of what that land across the road was purchased for. I'm not certain that it is feasible to have a landfill operation over there, but certainly that is, again, something that we could investigate if the commission would like.
David, I think now to remember what was brought up a minute ago about the height-wise and the effect in the properties to the surrounding us. That was part of the reason we bought that property. So when we did something, we would be the landowner that would have to deal with it. I mean, because we would actually own the land that would affect the most.
Yes, that is true.
This is Commissioner Dickinson again. I think, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for all of the commissioners, but I am very pleased with the results of the study. The fact that we can stay where we are by just increasing our footprint and still gaining that kind of possibility of being able to extend that out that far. I think that really gives kudos to you and your department that you are addressing it at this time, that we can be looking to the future. So I'm excited that we can stay there and not have to maybe consider a new location.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say the only thing more disruptive than one landfill would be two. All right, so David, Derek, you jumped in there. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I generally to Don's comment, that land to the south was purchased with the idea of it being a secondary landfill. I think some considerations there, though, is even though you're just across the street, you have to go entirely through the KDHE process again. That certainly adds a huge amount of cost to it. And frankly, when you talk about height, I feel like that's only a discussion based on, nearby landowners who may or may not want to look at it. But if you jump across the street to the south, you're only building closer to that set of residences that are up off of 68 there. And so I think you're probably way further ahead just increasing the height on the current site. And I think it was you, Don. You're absolutely right. My understanding, based on a review of the documentation, was the county bought that land to the south to act as a buffer as much as anything. And so I don't hear any of the five of you necessarily concerned about increasing the height. And I would say that you're probably better off doing that and fully utilizing the current location than you are heading over to the south. But those are basically my thoughts on it. Thanks, Colt.
Yeah, I definitely get that feeling too. Everybody's on board for this. That other site also gave us access to overburden. That once we're done filling this site up, we need to cap it with soil, several feet of soil. So,
Yes, sir.
David, did the consultants talk about that, about our what kind of overburden we have on site as far as volumes and what our needs might be?
Actually, once all of this is done, once we, reach capacity, we will have to cover the entire site with 2 feet of topsoil. And so having the site across the road definitely gives us a place to capture some of that material. We do currently have, we struggle with being able to find cover material on a daily and quarterly basis where we have to cover what we have compacted. And so we get a little bit of material from over there, but mostly that's good topsoil, and so we have to haul it in. With this expansion, if we go this route, there might be some areas where we can capture some of that daily cover material on site that we're currently not utilizing. So that'll be a positive thing for us as well. But as far as how much material we'll need and that sort of thing, that will all be part of the construction documentation that would come with the permitting process.
All right. So option number 3 is what's recommended. Does anybody have a desire to deviate from that?
This is Don. I'll make a motion to accept the staff's recommendation of option number 3.
Okay. Hopefully everybody's all right with that.
Mr. Dunn, I'll second that. I think we need to move as expediently as we can because, like David said, the permitting process might even get harder and harder as time goes on.
All right. So a motion and a second to move forward with option 3.
Commissioner Howard, how do you vote? Commissioner Howard? Commissioner Dickinson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard? Chair Waymire?
Yes.
This is
Okay,
Commissioner
Colt.
Dickinson. Before we go off this subject, can I ask David a question about the new piece of equipment that we're doing? Are you finding that we can't, that really is making a difference?
It is making a significant difference. The volume of material that we are bringing into the site is greater than any other year in our history, and that piece of machinery is really having a huge positive impact on us. And next year, mid-year or so, we will have. I'll be asking you all to commission another airspace calculation study like we did this past summer that will give us what our compaction rates are. And I fully expect that to be back to where we need it to be in that 1,000 pound per cubic yard area. And it's all going to be attributed to having this new compactor on site.
All right. Derek, do you have something?
Yeah, I do. I just want to clean this up a little bit. So to be clear, what the board is, what staff is asking the board to do is allow SCS engineers to finalize their report utilizing option 3 kind of as their baseline. And so their report will be based on that. And then we've also asked for authorization as staff to begin the permitting process. Not saying the motion needs revised at all. I just want to make sure that the board understands what it is, clearly what it is that we're asking for. So
Safe to say, David.
That was the motion.
Okay. Safe to say, David, this is a conceptual kind of image that's in front of us. There's a lot of design work that would need to be done in that direction before we could even apply.
Yes, once we have a preferred option, SCS will finish up their contract with us to do the feasibility study. And then they will present those findings, and much of what we talked about today, they will present again. I think it's important that you hear from the consultant in this regard. And then once that is done, and after we get past the first part of the year, I'll be coming back before you and asking for permission to send out a request for proposals to consulting engineers such as SCS to begin the permitting process that I've been mentioning. And so we will send this out to multiple firms, and we will evaluate their proposals and then enter into negotiations with that firm to then prepare the study is how I envision this going. So it's a two-part exercise here, and you will have opportunity to decide whether or not we win and how we proceed with the permitting process.
All right, very well.
This is Commissioner Howard. Cole, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I don't know. I lost it a while ago, I think.
All right. But you were able to hear us, you're aware?
Yes, I could hear everything.
Okay, all righty. You're good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to staff reports. Derek?
all right, thanks, Colt. Basically just going to give a COVID update today and going to turn it over to Nick. As the 5 of you commissioners are aware, we are dealing with a couple of situations internally that are creating some logistics issues for us. We continue to work through that and identify, the best situations we're trying to identify the best solutions possible. But what we're finding is that there really aren't any great solutions. And so we're working to handle things as best we can. I've talked to all of you the situation involving COVID and managing through it and trying to staff through it, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And so I would just ask that as a board that you understand that and you extend some grace to county staff, because we're going to be put in situations, and indeed, I think we're in those situations as I'm speaking to you, that we never anticipated being in. And so we will continue to do what we can to manage through that. Now, what I will tell you is we have county employees who, you know, at the start of yesterday had Thanksgiving plans. Now, I don't know specifically what those plans were, but certainly they had plans. And given the situation that has developed, they will now be working. And many of those employees are going to work many days in a row here. And I will tell you, I am in awe of those folks. When the news was broke to them, what they were being asked to do, there was not a single one that complained, had a bad attitude about it. Every one of them rose to the occasion and is going to do this. And so I cannot overstate the level of respect that I have for those folks. And I don't know where the organization would be without employees like that. And I do, I want them to know that, it's hard to think, it's an isolating feeling when you think about having to work on a holiday when, so many of your acquaintances and your family are getting together. And I want those folks to know that they're not going to be here alone. I will be here working. Chief Robbins is going to be here working. Assistant Chief Hilliker will be here working. Casey Brady is going to be here working. Like, the county will have a leadership team that is here actively managing through this. The health department, pandemic doesn't stop for holidays. They will have a COVID team here on Friday working through this. And so, so much respect for those people, and want them to know that they are not alone in this. Kind of transitioning, we've had a lot of questions about the governor's order and what that means for Franklin County. Again, I've spoken offline with the five of you about this, and we've posted about it on social media, but effectively it does not affect Franklin County. Franklin County was one of the dozen or so counties that didn't opt out of the governor's original mandate. And so last week she issues a second mask mandate and gives counties a week to basically respond. Well, part of that order had a provision that stated if you're already, honoring the initial order, there's nothing for you to do. Technically, we never opted out of that. To do that, you had to exercise a statutory authority and affirmatively opt out. We didn't do that. Now, we're not enforcing the order here in this county, but technically that order is in effect. And so at this point in time, there's really nothing for the Board of Commissioners to do. I will tell you that we have discussions on almost a daily basis at the staff level about what we can do to gain additional compliance with the mask order, and there aren't any easy answers there. But as our numbers continue to go up, it obviously just exacerbates the situation and really amplifies the importance of wearing masks. And so we continue to work through that at the staff level and with Dr. Budd, and we'll see where, what the upcoming weeks and months bring, but certainly it's possible that the board gets involved in that discussion again at some point. Still getting calls about the CARES Act or the Spark Fund money. As I said last week, we're not in a position to take any more requests at this point in time. We have to have certain compliance reports taken care of, and there's so much reporting involved in all of this, and so much of it has to be done on a very prompt time frame. If we were to continue to take requests right now, we couldn't get that reporting done. And that's to say nothing of the fact that at this point, we've got, pretty firm allocations of all of the money that all of the 5.2. And so just want to say it again. We're basically at the end of this process at the county level and aren't able to take on requests at this point. I will tell you, my staff and I didn't ask to inherit $5.2 million. We didn't ask to be put in a position to have to allocate that. I know the process wasn't perfect. The consulting firm that we're using has done a great job, but I know that they are spread incredibly thin because every county and every state in this country is dealing with this. And so we knew at the beginning that we weren't going to make everyone happy, but I want the board to know that at the staff level, we've done the best that we can with this. And so I want you all to understand that. And unless you have questions for me, that's really all I have.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. I do have a question. I know that the city is, because of our increase in COVID cases, is going back to platooning departments. I wonder where we were at in that. Are we still working from home? Will we be going to work from home if we can, or how are we doing that right now?
Yeah, we haven't started platooning again. I had a department head meeting where that question was brought up and discussed. I'm certainly open-minded to it. We've done some things, when we had that discussion at the beginning of this pandemic, we didn't have some of the protective measures in place that we do now when it comes to barriers and some of the disinfecting equipment that we can disinfect so much more efficiently now than we used to. We've got more barriers in place now, but certainly I am open-minded to platooning, and we do have some employees that work from home more than they did. And so we will continue to work with the leadership team on using some of those options as is appropriate. Are there any other questions for me?
It doesn't sound like it. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
All right, Nick, you on?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I want to give you a quick update on the situation of COVID. Right now, we're reporting about 1,043 total positive cases. We continue to see the state being bogged down with cases coming in and getting stuff reported out. I know there are factors about 20 more cases that have been reported to the state that we haven't got back on EPI. So really, we're probably in the ballpark of what I know of about 1,063 or so total positives we've had, which right now our active cases, we're about 179 reported from the state, but yeah, those 20 that I know about that have come in that aren't reported, we're right at 200 active cases going into the Thanksgiving holiday. The state had been releasing their prioritization for the contact tracing and that, and we're looking at that, trying to figure out how we're going to continue to work forward on contact tracing due to the amount that we are continuing to see. At this time, if you look at us, OFP, and Advent, there's about, on a daily basis, 60 to 80 tests completed a day. And that's on an average day. That's not a busy day. So testing a lot of people. And with the state being behind, we were seeing results coming back in 2 days, and now we're in the upward of 4 days. We tested people on Thursday, results back until Monday. So with that, there's been a slowdown with the amount of COVID cases throughout the state and stuff, according to the state, and using their labs. I will tell you, talking to OFP, Quest is 5 or 6 days out as well. So this isn't just a state issue. We're back to overwhelming all the testing sites in the lab that do the tests. With that, I'm happy to report that we do have our first box of rapid tests at the health department. So we got 30 available to us, and hopefully we'll start seeing those trickle in. The thing with those tests are they have to be done on symptomatic individuals. Asymptomatic individuals, there's a higher chance of false negatives on them. So we still have to use a PCR, and to this time, we were unable to secure or in the unforeseen future a rapid PCR test. So we'll have to rely on the state and outside labs for that. Other than that, we, as Derek said, we'll have staff working on Friday doing testing. We have positives that have came in on Monday that we have to do testing of contacts, plus reaching out to and following up with results that we get in over the weekend. So there were people working on Friday and more than likely some over the weekend. We have had to call staff in to do testing on the weekends for some of our first response agencies. So we have utilized those rapid tests for that on the weekends. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that's pretty much what I have for you today.
Nick, this is Derek. Where are we at on hospitals here in Franklin County on capacity?
Yesterday, we had a conversation with on our ESF 8, and at this time, Advent can handle, as long as they're not on ventilators, Advent Health can handle 15 COVID patients at one time. They've got one hall specifically set up to be able to handle those. As of yesterday, there was 4 COVID patients in the hospital. We are continuing to see hospitals getting full city and transport problems. We've seen this firsthand on individuals that don't have COVID that's had to stay here when they needed specialty care in the city, but we're unable to find a hospital to take them due to the hospitals having no capacity in some of their ICUs in those areas. So at this time, Advent does have 4. They have the ability to take up to 15. If there is more than 15, they have a surge plan in place, but that's where Advent's at.
And then I had one commissioner contact me, and he had a question about deaths. How many deaths have we had here in the county?
At this time, we've had 15 deaths that have been somewhat related to COVID. All of them, those 15 have had COVID, and some of them, or most of them, had underlying health conditions, but the COVID did exacerbate the death.
And do you know of those 15, how many were associated with our nursing home outbreak?
I believe, and I don't quote me 100%, but 8 or 9 of them were associated with that.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. That's all I have.
This is Commissioner Dunn. Nick, when you ask people to be in quarantine, is there any therapeutics out there that you could suggest for these folks?
At this time, there's none that I could suggest. If it's something you'd like for me to talk to Dr. Ransom about and maybe get back to you next week, I sure will. But on my level, I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Nick.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too. David Lee, still on the line.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
So we've had a lot of folks off. They try to use their vacation and whatnot around this time of year. So we've had kind of a skeleton crew, but we have been managed to take care of the debris removal on Virginia Terrace over Mosquito Creek, just north of Lane. And we've got a good start on the debris removal on the Reno Road Bridge over Appanoose Creek west of Florida. And we've got a couple other bridges that will come in after that. Last Friday, we did something a little bit unusual. The railroad, as you know, closed K68 there between here and Pomona. They kind of let us know at the last minute that they were going to be doing that. So Friday afternoon, we went out and to help because we knew that there'd be a lot of local traffic that would take our gravel roads. So we watered down the roads in front of houses on Georgia and Osborne just to help mitigate some of that dust. The official detour on that project kept traffic on state highways. So they routed them to 75 down to I-35 and around. So that was quite a detour for folks, and all the locals are going to try to find an easy, quicker route, which put them on our gravel road. So we did a little bit of work to help mitigate some of that. And fortunately, the work's over and traffic is back to normal. We'll take a look at our roads to see if there's any additional damage done here in the coming days. And then today we had to send several folks over to Iowa Terrace south of K68 to pick up a large pile of trash that was left for us overnight. So that's really a short update, but that's what I've got today.
David, this is Don.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I drove some of the roads that the Kellogg has done, and looks like they're doing a real good job.
Yes.
I traveled Rock Creek and Vermont, and then I drove down to Lane, and looks like they've really made a big improvement in our problem.
Yes, I'm very happy with the work that's been done so far. We're tracking how those dollars allocated to that project are being spent, and I'm pretty happy with how things are going. We still have a few areas that we need to take care of, and I'm hoping that the weather breaks here in the coming weeks so we can finish that last bit of work. But I think we've done a good job of using those dollars, and the improvements that Kilo has made in some really rough areas has been significant. So and I will also say that in most parts of the county, I've seen some work through this project. So I'm happy with that, and happy with the work and the progress that they've made so far.
All right. Thanks for the update, David.
Thank you.
Janet?
I'd just like to let you guys know that I continue to work with our consultant, Alicia, really closely on getting all of our documentation in place and ready for reporting at the end of the year. We're working on a big report right now that includes a lot of county expenditures that you all have approved, getting all the MOAs back so that we have the documentation stating that each of the cities and school districts understand the reporting process and that they know what their spending allocations are. So just working really hard on that after we finished up all the election results.
All right.
Janet, that's Don.
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
I just want to know, second kudos to how our elections run and the way we came out this year and the way it was all handled. I know just what made me think of that. I heard this morning they're doing a recount in Pennsylvania, and they found one of the counties, they found 300 ballots that had never even been opened. So, and I was just thinking, I told Becky that ain't happening here. So,
Yes, thank you so much for that. But I was just thinking about this yesterday and this morning. We absolutely could not have done this without all of our other departments that helped us out tremendously. As you guys know, solid waste and noxious weed just do so much work for us, helping us load out all the equipment out of the building and out to the polling locations. We have asked for a lot of help from the Treasurer's Department this year, just working with us on making sure that we have enough people over here at various times. And Jody was a tremendous help in letting us use a couple of her people at their less busy time, and we're trying to return that favor to her right now when they are getting ready to go into their busiest time. As Derek talked about our staff meeting, and we all have concerns about having adequate staffing through these tremendously busy times, the clerk's office through election and the treasurer's office through tax season, and we just want to be a resource to each other. I know that from time to time people say, why don't you get an updated building that functions really well? But I will tell you that I attribute the lack of cases in this building to the space that we have in here, and that we are all able to stay 6 feet apart for the most part through the majority of times. Obviously some of our departments are a little closer together, like motor vehicles. And as you guys know, we approved some different desk spaces for those people, so we can hopefully, cut down on some of that contact between them and between the people that are regularly coming in there. But just us being able to sit a distance away from each other, I think has helped a lot. But we are trying to help Jody over in the Treasurer's Department when we see that the phone needs answered or whatever, because a lot of those questions we deal with at a different time of year, and so we can help her answer some of those questions, so maybe it'll alleviate some of the phone traffic for them. So.
All right. Well, thank you, and thanks again for everything you've done. Let's go to Commissioners' comments and board reports. Roy?
I was just thinking maybe Derek can give us an update on the remodel, and other than that, I don't have anything. Just wish everybody a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the remodel's coming along incredibly well. I have not been over there, and I was over there late last week just to take a look, and you can really see the space at this point. The walls are up. They've started to cut in some of the windows and doors. And so certainly we would have to do so responsibly, but if any of the 5 of you would like to come see that space, we can absolutely arrange for that, because at this point it's super easy to visualize what it's going to look like with the walls being in place. And so as far as I know, they are still right on schedule with it. Thanks.
All right. Dawn, you have an update?
Nothing to report. Like I said, I did go out and drive a bunch of the roads. Kellogg had done, not all of them, a lot of them in my district, and they're looking very good. So that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. Rick?
I don't really have anything to report. I do just want to say Monday, South Star Chrysler gave food away to whoever wanted to go by and pick it up. They had some items. People never had to leave their car. And I was able to go by, pick up some things, and pass that on to a family out here in my area that I knew could use it. And I just want to thank South Star for doing that. It was for anybody that wanted to go by and get some different things for Thanksgiving. So appreciate any businesses and people that do that kind of stuff in our area. So that's all I have.
All right, excellent. I am.
Last Wednesday, I participated in the noontime mindfulness for leaders and healthcare workers, and I'm just gonna just be honest and say this is kind of a hard thing for me to do because when I'm awake, my mind is going, and so to try to stop my mind from, and just concentrating on breathing is something that I'm going to have to learn to be better at. We are a mindfulness community. And when we are calm and quiet, then the people around us can, and our families and our coworkers, everyone it can be calmer. And so I think it's something that maybe all of us need to work on, especially during this stressful time of COVID, just finding a way to calm our minds and take them off of the things that are going around us. And then the city commission on last Wednesday, one of the things they did was to honor some of their employees for their longevity. And I think that's one of the things that I miss the most, not meeting in person, is not being able to have those meetings where we can just shake a hand and just say, we appreciate you and the work that you do for the county. We've had great employees that have retired this year that we haven't been able to honor the way that I feel like we should have or could have. And that is something I truly miss, that we haven't been able to just, give the kudos to those employees like we could or should have done. The city also approved a resolution supporting the public health efforts to mitigate the disease spread. Basically, wear your mask. I know as I go into Walmart, it seems like fewer and fewer people are wearing masks. And I know that we all are getting tired of COVID. We are all just wanted to end, but this is not the time to let up on our vigilance as far as what we can do. I know we talk about the health workers being our first line of defense. That's not true. We are the first line of defense for COVID. What we do makes a difference, and our healthcare workers are actually our last line of defense. We hope by the time somebody gets to them, it's not a good thing. So whatever we can do as far as wear our mask, try to limit our groups that we get together with, socially distance. We still need to do that. We see a vaccine around the corner, so we need to just stay vigilant as far as what we do ourselves. I did announce last week that there was going to be a Christmas parade on Saturday that has been canceled. Probably you all know that. They're still going to do, I think they're still going to light the Christmas tree. It is still small business Saturday, so try to remember to include your small business as you look ahead for the holiday. There is a Thanksgiving dinner from 1 to 3 at the Municipal Auditorium. It is carry out or deliver. So if you are in need of a Thanksgiving dinner, that is an option for anybody that needs it. And besides, happy Thanksgiving to all. That is all I have.
All right, thank you. I don't have anything I need to add. So with that, I'll do one last check, see if anybody needs to speak up. And if I don't hear anything, I'll look for a motion to adjourn then.
Commissioner Howard, I'll make that motion.
Second, Don.
All right, thanks, Don. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.